A young man discovers his extraordinary lineage as a demigod, born from the line of Poseidon himself. Suddenly, he finds himself accused of an audacious theft, the missing lightning bolt of Zeus, the king of gods. How will he prove his innocence? How can he avert a war among the gods? Be warned, this recap is filled with spoilers. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Enjoy the show. On a certain night, a giant man emerged from the sea. His body then transformed into that of an ordinary human male. He was Poseidon, the god of the sea, who went to the rooftop of a building to meet his brother, Zeus, the god of the sky. There, Zeus informed him that his lightning bolt had been stolen by someone and suspected Poseidon's half-human, half-god child as the thief. Poseidon refused to accept that his child was accused of stealing Zeus' lightning bolt. He argued that the child didn't know about his demigod status as Poseidon had left him as a baby. However, Zeus was not convinced and threatened that if Poseidon's child was indeed the thief, he would send him to the Tartarus prison. Hearing this, Poseidon was determined not to let Zeus harm his child. Finally, Zeus gave a deadline of 14 days before midnight to return his lightning bolt. If not, a war between the gods and humans would ensue. Zeus then left, leaving Poseidon behind. The next morning, a high school student named Percy Jackson was happily swimming in a pool. After spending 7 minutes at the bottom, he surfaced where his friend Grover was waiting. Grover complimented Percy on his ability to stay underwater for so long. They then returned to class. During an English lesson, the teacher, Mrs. Dodds, posed a question to Percy. However, Percy struggled to answer due to his worsening dyslexia, with the letters on the board appearing to move randomly. Back home, Percy confided in his mother, Sally, about his worsening dyslexia and ADHD, which made him impulsive and hyperactive at school. Sally encouraged him, saying everything would be all right. Gabe, Percy's stepfather, then arrived and rudely demanded a beer from Sally. Percy, feeling angry and protective of his mother, confronted Gabe, who responded by grabbing Percy's hair and asserting his dominance in the house. After Gabe left, Percy asked his mother why she stayed with such a rude and disrespectful man. Sally replied that it was for Percy's own good. The following day, Percy's school organized a trip to a Greek museum. Before entering, Percy heard a whisper telling him to be prepared for a change. He tried to find the source but saw a man across the street who then suddenly disappeared. Inside the museum, the guide, Mr. Brunner, explained about the Olympian gods from his wheelchair. He spoke about the three most powerful gods, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, who ruled the earth after defeating their father, Kronos. The brothers then competed against each other. Mr. Brunner also mentioned that sometimes the Olympian gods descended to Earth and had relationships with humans, resulting in demigod children. He then asked Percy for an example of a demigod. Percy looked at a statue with ancient Greek writing, which suddenly rearranged itself into the word Perseus. With this hint, Percy easily answered Perseus as an example of a demigod. During a tour, Mrs. Dodds took Percy aside for a private talk. They entered a quiet room. Percy was shocked when Mrs. Dodds suddenly transformed into a winged creature with a terrifying face called Fury. The creature attacked Percy, who tried to dodge. Fury demanded that Percy hand over Zeus' lightning bolt. Confused, Percy didn't understand what was happening. Grover and Mr. Brunner then entered the room. Mr. Brunner ordered Fury to release Percy or he would destroy her completely. Finally, Percy was released and Fury escaped through the window. Mr. Brunner, looking scared, asked what was happening. Percy explained that Fury wanted him to hand over Zeus' lightning bolt. Hearing this, Mr. Brunner was shocked. He instructed Grover to quickly take Percy to a camp. Mr. Brunner gave Percy a pen that could be used in emergencies. On the way home, Percy asked what was happening. Grover revealed that he had been Percy's protector all along. Despite his imperfect legs, Grover was willing to sacrifice his life to protect Percy. When they arrived home, Gabe and his friends were gambling. Gabe became angry when Percy asked Sally to leave. As Gabe was about to attack, Grover used his staff to paralyze him. The three of them quickly got into the car. Sally told them they were going to a special camp for extraordinary people. Percy grew more confused. Sally then revealed that Percy's father was Poseidon, the god of the sea. Poseidon had to leave them after Percy was born, even though he loved Percy deeply. On their journey, a cow suddenly fell in front of their car, causing it to flip over. Luckily, everyone was safe. They tried to get out of the car. Percy was shocked to see that Grover's legs were like those of a goat. Grover was a satyr. Grover kicked the car window to escape. In the distance, they saw the Minotaur monster chasing them. They ran into the woods until they reached the gate of the Half-Blood camp. Grover and Percy were able to enter, but Sally couldn't. Percy didn't want to leave his mother. Suddenly, the Minotaur captured Sally. Percy went back out, and Grover urged him to use the pen given by Mr. Brunner. Percy pressed the pen, which magically turned into a sword. Suddenly, Sally disappeared in the Minotaur's grasp. Percy began to attack, but was thrown back. The Minotaur charged, but Percy dodged. One of the Minotaur's horns got stuck in a tree and broke. Percy grabbed the broken horn and stabbed it into the Minotaur's stomach, defeating it. Later, Percy woke up in the infirmary. He saw Grover beside him. Grover was relieved to see Percy awake after being unconscious for 3 days. Percy was saddened, remembering he couldn't save his mother. Grover apologized for not being a good enough protector. Grover was still a junior protector because his horns hadn't grown yet. They both left the room and looked around. Grover explained that this was a special camp for half-bloods, half-human, half-god beings. Percy still couldn't believe he was a half-blood. At this camp, Percy would learn to use his powers and train to be a knight. However, Percy was unsure because he suffered from dyslexia and ADHD. Grover responded that these were actually Percy's strengths. His dyslexia allowed him to read ancient Greek, and his ADHD gave him quick reflexes in battle. Grover took Percy to the war training ground. There, Percy was amazed to see Annabeth Chase, the daughter of the goddess Athena. They met Mr. Brunner, who turned out to be a centaur in his true form. Percy was shocked because Mr. Brunner had been disguised as a human sitting in a wheelchair. Brunner took Percy into a house built by Poseidon, Percy's father. Percy asked why he was never told that his father was the god Poseidon. Mr. Brunner replied that it was for Percy's safety because it's rare for a child to be born from one of the 3 strongest gods: Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. As a descendant of Poseidon, Percy is very powerful. He is considered a threat by Zeus and Hades. That's why Sally married Gabe, whose strong body odor could mask Percy's blood scent and hide him from anything wanting to kill him. Percy was shocked to learn that his mother married Gabe to protect him. Brunner informed Percy that he was in danger. Everyone thought Percy had stolen Zeus' lightning bolt. Zeus's lightning bolt is the deadliest weapon. If it's not returned within 10 days, the earth will be destroyed. The gods will fight each other and destroy humanity. Hearing this, Percy was scared. He asked what he could do. Mr. Brunner had a plan. He would take Percy to Olympus and convince Zeus that Percy was innocent. However, Percy couldn't go to Zeus right away because many beings wanted to kill him. That's why Percy needed to train at this camp. Then Brunner gathered everyone and split them into 2 teams, red and blue. The blue team was led by Luke, son of Hermes, while the red team was led by Annabeth. Mr. Brunner told Percy to join one of the teams. Luke offered Percy to join his team. In this game, the team that first captures the enemy's flag wins. The game started, the teams attacked each other. Luke took Percy and his team towards the enemy flag. However, they were ambushed by the enemy. Not used to fighting, Percy tried to dodge. Luke, thinking he could handle the enemy alone, told Percy to go find the enemy flag. Percy ran along the river. Across the river, he saw the enemy's red flag. When Percy was about to take the flag, Annabeth appeared. Annabeth already knew Percy's plan. With her sword, she wounded Percy in several places. Finally, Percy fell, and Annabeth's team cheered at his defeat. Suddenly, Percy heard a whisper telling him to move towards the water because water would give him strength. His hand touched the water, and his wound slowly healed. Although injured, Percy got up again and surprisingly was able to fight, defeating the red team members. Annabeth advanced to fight Percy again, but Percy cornered her and took the red flag, winning for the blue team. That night, during dinner, Annabeth apologized for being too hard on Percy. She just wanted to test the abilities of Percy, the son of Poseidon. In the middle of their conversation, the god Hades suddenly appeared from the campfire. Hades was looking for Percy and threw fireballs everywhere. Hades said that Sally, Percy's mother, was still alive and he would release her if Percy handed over Zeus' lightning bolt to him. Upon hearing this, Percy stepped forward. He didn't believe what Hades was saying. Hades then showed that Sally, Percy's mother, was currently held in his kingdom. He'd instructed Percy to come and hand over the lightning bolt. Hades then disappeared. Percy intended to meet Hades and honestly tell him that he didn't have the lightning bolt. Mr. Brunner assured Percy to stick to their original plan, which was to meet Zeus at Olympus, hoping Zeus would help them save Percy's mother. In the middle of the night, while everyone else was asleep, Percy quietly snuck away. Grover then came, wanting to accompany him because he was Percy's protector. However, Percy forbade him. Annabeth also expressed her desire to go and help Percy. Percy forbade her to, citing the danger. Annabeth argued that she had trained hundreds of times, whereas Percy was a newcomer who surely needed help. Eventually, Percy relented and allowed Grover and Annabeth to follow him. They then went to Luke's room. Luke's father was Hermes, the messenger god. Hermes was the only god who could freely enter and leave the underworld, Hades abode. Annabeth thought that Luke knew how to get in and out of the underworld. Luke revealed that he had never met his father, but he had sneaked into the god's residence and stolen a pair of winged shoes. Luke gave these shoes to Percy, explaining that entering the underworld was easy, but the hard part was getting out. Inside the shoebox was a map. Persephone, Hades' wife, had pearls scattered around the world. These pearls could be used to easily exit the underworld if stepped on. Luke added that there were 3 hidden pearls nearby. Since 1 pearl was needed per person, they would need 3 pearls. Luke showed them the map, which indicated the location of the first pearl, marked with an address. After obtaining the first pearl, the map would show the location of the second and then the third pearl. Luke also handed over a shield for extra protection for Percy and his friends. They hurried off to the first pearl's location. The place was filled with statues, but no one was guarding it. Annabeth picked up some ancient Greek gold coins from a pool. They then scattered to search for the pearl. Suddenly, a woman appeared and told them to leave. Meanwhile, Grover found a statue strikingly similar to his uncle, who had been killed by Medusa. Realizing something, Grover immediately shouted, calling for Percy and Annabeth. Hearing Grover's shout, Percy drew out a pen that turned into a sword. Grover and Percy collided, informing each other that they were currently in Medusa's lair. In another place, Annabeth is confronted by a woman wearing sunglasses and a cloth in her hair. The woman is Medusa. Medusa recognizes that Annabeth is the daughter of the goddess Athena. Medusa approaches her. Medusa removes the cloth covering her hair, revealing that her hair is made of snakes. Annabeth closes her eyes tightly, while Medusa tempts her to open them. The woman holding the child eventually opens her eyes and turns into stone. From behind, Percy watches Medusa using his phone. He then distracts Medusa, causing her to chase him. Medusa realizes that Percy is the son of Poseidon. She traps Percy. With all his strength, Percy closes his eyes. Medusa continues to tempt him to open his eyes. As Percy's defenses begin to weaken, Grover crashes into Medusa with a car from behind. Percy swings his sword and successfully beheads Medusa. Annabeth suggests taking Medusa's head because it can be used as a weapon to turn enemies into statues. Percy sees a green pearl in Medusa's hand. It is the first Persephone pearl. After obtaining it, a second location magically appears on the map. That night, on their journey, they decide to stay in a hotel because Grover starts to feel sleepy. At the inn, Percy notices a wound on Annabeth's wrist and tries to heal it with water. It works, the wound disappears. Percy asks Annabeth why they never meet their godly parents. Annabeth explains that Zeus made a rule that gods are forbidden from meeting their human children immediately after birth. However, Annabeth tells him that sometimes her mother, the goddess Athena, whispers in her ear when she's in trouble. Percy realizes that the whispers he hears are from his father, the god Poseidon. In their room, they watch a television broadcast with Gabe falsely reporting that Percy kidnapped Sally. Because of this report, Percy is now a fugitive. They quickly decide to move on. The next morning, they head straight to the second location, a replica of the Parthenon. The Parthenon is a temple built for the goddess Athena, so it's no surprise that inside there is a huge statue of the goddess Athena. Grover notices that the Persephone pearl is in the headgear of the Athena statue. Because the place is very crowded, they decide to return at night when it's quieter. That night, Percy, Grover, and Annabeth sneak out from the restroom. Percy plans to use flying shoes to get the pearl, but there are still 5 janitors working. Annabeth starts shooting the janitors one by one with her bow and arrow. The janitors begin to faint because the arrows contain a sleeping drug. After dealing with the janitors, Percy makes a video call with Luke. He asks how the flying shoes work. Luke tells Percy to run, and then the shoes will start to fly. Percy starts running and eventually manages to fly. Just as his hand is about to grab the pearl, Percy falls but fortunately holds on to the Athena statue. With difficulty, Percy finally gets the second pearl. After descending, they are shocked to see that the 5 unconscious janitors have awakened. Suddenly, the janitors transform into a hydra, a 5-headed dragon. The hydra breathes fire, causing Percy to accidentally drop the pearl. Percy pulls out his shield and sword. He flies and attacks the hydra with his sword. Percy succeeds in cutting off all the hydra's heads. However, the hydra rises again and the severed heads regrow multiple times. The hydra attacks again. Annabeth tries to distract the hydra by shooting it, while Percy tries to retrieve the pearl. The hydra's fire hits Percy's hand. Percy then sees a water channel and tries to use his powers. He moves the water, forming a curtain to protect himself so he can easily take the pearl. They quickly try to escape, but the door is locked and hard to open. Grover then takes out Medusa's head from his bag. Grover opens Medusa's glasses and points them at the Hydra. The Hydra turns into stone. Sometime later, they stopped to eat and watched a news broadcast on TV. The news was about very bad weather. Annabeth realized this was because of the gods' anger. They needed to get the third pearl as soon as possible. They continued their journey to the third pearl's location in Las Vegas. They entered the Lotus Casino to search for the pearl. Inside, Grover was mesmerized by the place, but Annabeth reminded him they were there to find the pearl, not to have fun. During their search, some servers offered them lotus flower cakes. Hungry, Percy and his friends ate the cakes. After eating them, they suddenly forgot their main purpose. They became like intoxicated people and started enjoying life in the Lotus Casino, always eating the lotus flower cakes offered to them. Percy then heard his father Poseidon's voice in his head, warning him not to eat the cake because it diverted his mind and would trap him there forever. Percy threw away the cake and started to walk around. He refused every server who offered him the lotus flower cake. Percy stopped when he saw a young man playing an ancient game. The young man said it was the year 1971. Percy realized that this young man had been trapped there for decades. Percy accidentally saw the Persephone Pearl, but he was blocked by hotel staff who realized he had regained his awareness. Percy then went to find Annabeth and Grover. He urged them to become aware because if not, they would be trapped there forever. Finally, Grover and Annabeth became aware. As they were about to leave, hotel staff blocked them. Grover and Annabeth naturally fought back, while Percy focused on getting the pearl. Finally, Percy managed to get the third pearl. Grover took them to a prize car and drove it fast to escape the staff's pursuit. Eventually, they managed to get out of the Lotus Casino. They were all shocked after realizing they had spent 5 days in the Lotus Casino. They remembered that tomorrow was the last day to return Zeus' lightning bolts, so they had to quickly meet Hades in the underworld. Rushing towards Hollywood, Percy and his friends stopped when they saw an ancient Greek inscription. After reading it, the ground beside them opened, revealing an entrance to the underworld. After they entered, the door closed behind them. Inside, they saw Charon, the ferryman of the underworld. Percy asked Charon to take them to meet Hades, but Charon explained that the living were not allowed to enter. Grover offered paper money as payment, but Charon burned it. Finally, Grover gave a gold coin he had taken earlier, and Charon accepted and told them to get on his boat. Arriving in the underworld or hell, they finally reached Hades' palace, surrounded by fire. The palace doors opened as they got off the boat. Suddenly, 2 hellhounds blocked them, but they retreated after Persephone, Hades' wife, told them to go. Persephone invited them in to meet Hades. Hades, who looked like an ordinary man, finally revealed his true form. They then believed he was Hades. Hades explained that he was cursed by Zeus and Poseidon to stay in the underworld. The only chance for Hades to leave was to defeat Zeus and take over Olympus with the help of Zeus' lightning bolt. If Percy handed over Zeus' lightning bolt to him, Hades would free Sally, Percy's mother. Percy said he didn't have Zeus' lightning bolt and hoped Hades would release his mother. However, upon hearing this, Hades became angry and slammed a ball, revealing Sally. Reflexively, Percy slammed his shield and hugged his mother. Hades noticed something shining behind Percy's shield and took it. It turned out to be Zeus' lightning bolt that had been sought after all this time. Percy and his friends were shocked, realizing that the bolt had been in their shield all along. They realized they had been trapped by Luke, who had stolen Zeus' lightning. Hades then ordered Persephone to turn Percy into food for the starving spirits. Hades commanded Persephone to summon the hellhounds, trapping Percy and his friends. Suddenly, Persephone grabbed Zeus' lightning bolt and attacked Hades until the god fainted. Persephone then freed Percy and his friends. She revealed her hatred for Hades and refused to let him out of the underworld. Persephone gave Zeus' lightning bolt to Percy and urged them to escape quickly. Since there were only 3 pearls, Grover chose to stay, fulfilling his duty to protect Percy and Sally. They then stepped on the pearls, hoping to teleport to Olympus. They'd arrived on the roof of a building, searching for an entrance to Olympus. With only 10 minutes before Zeus started the war, Luke arrived, blocking Percy from handing over the lightning bolt. Luke confessed that he had stolen Zeus' lightning, wanting a war between the gods to bring down Olympus. Luke immediately attacked Percy to prevent him from returning the lightning bolt. Although he managed to seize it, Percy pursued Luke using flying shoes. An aerial battle ensued, and Percy successfully retrieved Zeus' lightning bolt. Percy flew towards Olympus, but Luke cut off one wing of Percy's shoe, causing him to fall. Luke took Zeus' lightning bolt again. Percy used his power to control water to defeat Luke, who eventually fell into the sea. Percy returned to the rooftop. Sally pressed some buttons, and a magical door to Olympus appeared. However, Sally had to wait outside. Only Percy and Annabeth could enter. They went into Olympus where the gods were arguing, preparing for war. Percy and Annabeth tried to persuade Zeus not to start the war. As the clock struck midnight, Percy returned Zeus' lightning bolt to him. Once the bolt was back in Zeus's hands, the sky filled with flashes. Percy told Zeus that he was not the thief of the lightning bolt. In fact, it was stolen by Luke, son of Hermes. Luke did this because he was angry at the gods for neglecting him. He wanted the gods to destroy each other. Hearing this explanation, Zeus calmed down, and then Percy asked for Grover, who was held in the underworld, to be released. Zeus granted Percy's request. Zeus and the other gods left, leaving Percy alone with his father, Poseidon. Poseidon thanked Percy for preventing the war. However, Percy said he did this solely to save his mother. Poseidon then transformed into a human to speak again with Percy. Poseidon revealed that he had always wanted to meet Percy and his mother, but he was afraid that if he stayed with them, he would neglect his responsibilities as the god of the sea. According to Zeus, this was a bad thing, so Zeus made a rule forbidding the gods from meeting their children. Although Poseidon had never met Percy, he was always there beside him, helping Percy in times of trouble. They shook hands as a farewell. A few days later, Percy returned to the camp, escorted by his mother. Sally informed him that she had divorced Gabe. This made Percy happy, and he hugged his mother. At the camp, Grover approached Percy and showed his horns that were starting to grow, indicating that Grover would be promoted to a senior protector. Grover thanked Percy for asking Zeus to release him from the underworld. They then met Mr. Brunner, who was proud of Percy for following his instincts. Mr. Brunner told Percy to change his clothes and return to training. Percy began sword training with Annabeth, and with that, the story of the movie ended.
Please support us so we can produce with better tools and with more high-quality movie recap. With click like and subscribe. Leave also a comment so we can improve in the future.